In late February of that year, Japanese media reported a shocking update. A cold case that had remained unsolved for over 10 years, once believed to be a perfect crime, was suddenly reopened. Police announced that they had identified a suspect. This was not an ordinary murder case. It was a dismemberment case. And according to investigators, there was a horrifying possibility. After killing and dismembering the victim, the suspect may have served human flesh to customers. The reason this theory even exists is simple. The suspect was the owner of a yakiniku barbecue restaurant. Today, I want to tell you the full story of this case. A case that spans 17 years, may involve multiple victims, and forces us to ask how many crimes can remain hidden in plain sight. This story begins on the morning of May 17, 2008. That day, a man went fishing at Lake Biwa in Japan. Lake Biwa is the largest freshwater lake in the country, stretching across a vast area. When the fisherman arrived at the shore, he noticed something floating on the surface of the water. At first, he thought it was debris, but as it drifted closer, he realized it looked disturbingly like a human leg. He immediately called the police. When officers retrieved the object, they confirmed it was indeed a human leg. There was no foot attached, only the leg. Police began searching the surrounding area. About 2.5 kilometers away, along another part of the shore, they discovered a second leg. One left leg, one right leg. Neither had feet. At that point, investigators still could not be certain whether the limbs belonged to the same person. The search continued. 3 days later, 7.5 kilometers away in the opposite direction, police made another discovery. A human head, partially buried in sand near the shoreline. 1 day after that, on May 21st, police found a left foot on the opposite side of the lake. Then, a month later, 2 wrists were discovered. Not hands, only wrists, found far apart along the lake's edge. By then, it was clear these body parts had been deliberately scattered. The total area across which the remains were found spanned roughly 30 kilometers. DNA testing confirmed that all the remains belonged to the same person. The victim was a man with type O blood. However, his DNA did not match anyone in the national database. The hands were never found, meaning fingerprints were unavailable. Although the head was recovered, decomposition was severe, making facial identification impossible. No personal belongings were found. To this day, no additional body parts have ever been recovered. After 17 years, the remains found were limited to 2 legs, 2 wrists, 1 left foot, and a head. Nothing more. From the remains, police identified 2 distinguishing features. First, the victim was missing 4 front teeth. Second, there was a noticeable raised bump beneath his left eye. Based on bone measurements, investigators estimated the man's height to be between 170 and 180 centimeters and his age between 40 and 60. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation. There were no obvious ligature marks on the neck. Instead, blood congestion patterns in the brain indicated suffocation. Police concluded the victim was likely strangled or suffocated before being dismembered. Judging by the level of decomposition, death had occurred approximately 3 weeks before the first discovery. One key question remained. Were the remains dumped at a single location and carried by water currents, or were they disposed of at multiple sites? Initially, police could not be sure. Lake Biwa has natural water movement, and debris can drift. However, water flow experts were brought in to simulate lake currents. Their conclusion was critical. Some body parts could not have reached their discovery locations within 3 weeks through natural movement alone. This strongly suggested multiple dumping locations. The killer had returned to the lake again and again. Despite DNA, physical features, and public appeals, police could not identify the victim. The facial bump seemed like a unique identifier at first, but investigators later realized it was not congenital, and they could not determine when it formed. The missing teeth could not be dated. The height and age were estimates only. In reality, only 3 facts were certain. The victim was male, had type O blood, and his DNA did not match any record. In Japan, with tens of thousands of missing persons each year, this information was far from enough. Many missing individuals are never reported. If a person has no close relatives, no one files a report, a possibility that haunted investigators. Police attempted facial reconstruction using the skull. Computer-generated models were created, illustrations were released, and posters were distributed nationwide. On July 11th, a woman in Osaka contacted police and claimed her boyfriend was the killer. However, the claim quickly collapsed. The woman had made the report out of spite after an argument. She was later charged with obstructing police work. After that, the case went silent. Even with wide media coverage, no one came forward. 6 months later, police offered a reward of 3 million yen, the maximum allowed under Japanese law. Still, no tips, no leads. The case became known as a perfect crime. 10 years passed. Then, in 2018, investigators finally made progress. Through long-term data analysis and elimination, police identified the victim. His name was Kawamoto Hideyuki, and he was 39 years old at the time of his death. Police identified him through Japan's driver's license system, which serves as primary identification. Kawamoto renewed his license in 2007. After that, nothing. No renewals, no sightings, no residence. His photo closely matched the reconstructed image, especially the bump beneath the left eye. DNA comparison with distant relatives confirmed his identity. Yet, even with a name and face, police still found no one who truly knew him. Kawamoto had no immediate family, no permanent address, and no stable job. He worked day labor at construction sites where people come and go without contracts. If someone disappears, no one notices. That explained why no one reported him missing. Then another case changed everything. In August 2018, police discovered another dismembered male body in a drainage canal near Lake Biwa. A jogger noticed a large mass floating in the water and called the police. Officers recovered a torso, no arms, no legs, no head. Later, they found the lower body severed above the knees. The victim was identified as a 69-year-old man named Nakagawa Tadashi. Investigators had no suspects until someone used Nakagawa's ATM card to withdraw money. ATM cameras captured the suspect, a 68-year-old yakiniku restaurant owner named Kanko Yoshimi. Kanko admitted using the card but denied murder. However, evidence quickly mounted. Blood matching the victim was found in his vehicle. Witnesses confirmed the victim was last seen at Kanko's restaurant. Neighbors reported that Kanko had spread rumors claiming the victim returned to his hometown. Prosecutors concluded that Kanko murdered Nakagawa. In 2019, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. During that investigation, police made a disturbing connection. Kanko had also known Kawamoto, the 2008 victim. The two men were construction workers who relied financially on Kanko. They had trusted him with their earnings only to discover the money had been gambled away. Tensions followed. The conflicts escalated. In the end, each was dismembered and their remains were discarded near Lake Biwa. When police searched Kanko's restaurant again, they discovered fragments of human bone inside drainage pipes. These bones belonged to neither known victim. This suggested the possibility of additional, unidentified victims. Some former customers later claimed the meat at the restaurant had tasted unusual. This cannot be proven. But considering the suspect's behavior, psychological profile, and lack of remorse, the possibility cannot be dismissed. Recently, police officially concluded that Kanko was responsible for the 2008 Lake Biwa murder. He has been removed from prison custody and re-indicted. At 74 years old, even a life sentence changes little. But the truth matters, for the victims, and for understanding how long evil can remain hidden. For more than a decade, this was believed to be a perfect crime. Now, it may only be the surface of something far darker. How many victims were there? No one knows, and we may never know. That is what makes this case truly terrifying.